Assalamu alaikum, dear audience. Thanks everyone for joining to this live talk show. Today we are going to have a discussion about a very important and unique topic, and that is known as how neoliberal policies create anti-Islamic rhetoric in Bangladesh. And for discussing about this topic, we have our guest with us today, Mohammad Raqib, graduate fellow, University of California-Irvine. So, brother Mr. Raqib, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Nice to meet you, Naeem bhai.
You too. Thank you. Thank you very much. Neoliberalism, I think, is not a very common and much known term in Bangladesh, but I think its impact is clearly visible in some cases, and most of the people are not, aware of this issue. So, for clarifying all these issues, we are going to talk about this topic in details, and I hope that the people who have joined here today, you are going to get some amazing information that will completely change your thought about liberalism, neoliberalism, inshallah. So, Brother Rakib, the first question that I'd like to ask you today, I think liberalism and neoliberalism is a kind of confusing term for many people, even to me. So, could you please define it in your terms?
Thank you, Naeem bhai. So, neoliberalism, the emergence of neoliberalism within the world, it's a kind of, uh, I can say it's a kind of weird phenomena, the way it actually appeared, following the Arab-Israel war during 1970s. It actually appeared in the world in a way that actually shaped the people's life. So what happened following the Arab-Israel war? When Arab, they started to actually, utilize different kind of tools such as sanctioning on oil and so many things. So what happened at that time? Many country. So what happened following this war? The price of the oil it hiked all over the world, and many countries they actually fail to pay the debt of their oil payment. And at that time a few leaders of the world they agreed that all of the states who are failing to actually pay the oil cost, they need to actually cut off their own budget, and certain amounts of their budget should actually invest in paying the debt, mostly the oil debt. So from where all these countries, majority of the countries in the world, they don't have enough resources. They are actually navigating with their own resources, fighting with their own resources. So what
All right.
happened? Majority of the countries in this world, they started to actually cut off their own budget from the welfare sectors, such as they started to actually cut off their budget within, yeah, from health sector, from education sector, which actually tried to actually serve the own people. So what happened at the time? The majority of the countries they started to cut off their budget from the welfare aspects, and they paid the debt. On the other hand, so it also created a um, sh- disruption within the state mechanism. A state is not being able to fulfill the welfare of its own citizen. So certain sections of the society, those who have already a kind of enough resources, those who have a control over the resources, the state urged them to actually, navigate so many things, such as so the state they started to initiate new policies, that a kind of laissez-faire policy. They started to say that since we are not being able to actually navigate the health sector, since we are not being able to navigate the education sector, it would be really tough for us to navigate with our shortage of the money. So these things should be privatized. So what
Right.
happened at that time? The folks, those who have already enough resources, they got a kind of facilities through which they started to initiate big private business. And within that context, certain sections of the people they became much richer and richer, and other sections of the people who doesn't have enough resources, economic resources, as well as the social capital, they started to become poorer to poorer. And
All
at that
right.
time, the state it actually refrain itself from certain aspects. So It's not simply the case of the Bangladesh. If you go through the other parts of the world, you will see the same scenarios. So what is state? They try to say that we are actually liberating individuals. So the main notion of the neoliberal policy is something we are liberating individual people. We are creating a kind of laissez-faire. That means a state will not interrupt in business policies, in tax policies. All kind of will be free. So when the state neoliberal policies is started to say this kind of rhetoric, it seems that the kind of the existing uh, gap and existing inequalities within the society, it actually fueled in different ways. The folks, those who have enough resources, they are being easily actually navigating everything. On the other hand, people, those who doesn't have enough power, they started to become actually poorer than poor. So within that context, certain sections of the people in every societies,
Right.
they were actually taking control of many resources. They started to actually invest in different sectors which actually a state was supposed to serve, such as a state will look after the health. Right now in Bangladesh, a state, think about the state's investment in the health sector or the education sector, and think about the, the big corporations, multinational corporations, big private companies. Right now they're actually navigating the whole medical sector, whole, mostly, it's not the whole, mostly they're navigating the health sector, education sector. So think about people who have enough money, they can send their kids to the best schools. Those who doesn't have enough power, they're actually sending their kids to the schools which doesn't have any quality. Just see
Right.
within the Bangladeshi context, if you see the good universities, quote unquote, unquote, you know so qualityful universities, hospitals, in every aspect. So neoliberal policies following that time, mostly 1917 and 80s, in the name of liberating individuals, in the name of the free market, what actually it did, it kind of disruption within the society, and it create a kind of condition in which certain sections of the people, they got much more control over the societies. So the power of the state, it started to actually decline,
All right.
wane. So within the context of waning power of the state, certain sections of the people, their power, not only the individuals, corporations, private groups, their power started to actually, you know, strengthen. On the other hand, the poorer sections of the people, the kind of services, resources they were supposed to get from the state, it started to actually decrease, and uh, and the gap, inequalities within the society, it actually increased.
Okay. Thank you very much for providing a very clear idea about neoliberalism. Though actually, it's a kind of a quite unknown term for the people like Bangladeshi. So yes, I think so. What I have understood from your discussion, that it's actually a kind of global term, and it maybe work globally. So now, as it's a global term, so the next question that I'd like to ask you, that how does neoliberalism policies shaped the state policy in Bangladesh?
Thank you. So i'm I'm an anthropologist.
All right.
So within anthropology, there are we actually try to understand the phenomena, how people actually, the human impact of every aspects, every concepts or ideas. So one of the renowned anthropologists, his name is Kamarov. He actually tried to actually unpack the idea of the specificity. So when we say this kind of word, neoliberalism or any kind of words, obviously it derived from certain context or within certain areas, but it shaped the people in different areas in different ways. So always there are specificity of neoliberal policies. The way it shaped the United States, it didn't shape the Bangladesh in similar ways. There are some specific characteristics of the Bangladeshi society. So because of Bangladeshi society, its own history, its tradition, its legacy, its own way of life. So Bangladeshis, they have their own culture. There are so many things. The Bangladesh is distinct from other parts of the world. And the the impact of the neoliberal policy and the way people actually navigate the neoliberal policies in their everyday life in Bangladesh, it has some distinctions from other parts of the world. I will discuss in detail way how it actually shaped the everyday life of the many people. So Bangladesh is not a, many of us, we say that the Bangladeshi people surrounding 180 million, but if you count the Bangladeshi people, it is much more higher than the people from Afghanistan, Iran to Saudi Arabia. If you count the people from Saudi Arabia to Afghanistan, the Bangladeshi people is much more higher. So even if you think from the Islamic aspect, so many Muslims are living in Bangladesh, and the way neoliberal policy is actually shaping the life of the Muslims, and not following 1980s, but specifically 9/11, it is, there are so many shocking experiences, and people actually, those who are living with this kind of uh, within this context. So, what actually the specificity of the Bangladesh? That means how people of the Bangladesh, they experienced and navigated neoliberal policies in their everyday life, and their experiences, to some extent, it is something distinct from their Western counterpart or from their from other parts of the world, such as from Africa, in distinct and in different ways. I will discuss in detail way. Another thing is that many scholars, they try to actually kind of create a kind of distinctions between global south, global north, but anthropologists, they also try to actually uh, interrogate and unpack this term in different ways. So many assume that those who are living in the global north, they are a kind of with higher social status, blah 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 blah, global south in different ways. But anthropologists, they realize that the way we are actually seeing this phenomena, it has some problem. If you deterritorialized it, something like that, that means if you see from all over the world, certain sections of the people, they have much or greater control over the resources. Even in US or England, you will see so many people, they have so many resources, and many people, they are actually fighting to live their everyday life. So same kind of phenomena, it's not a kind of Western phenomena. Even in Bangladesh or in Myanmar or in different parts of the South Asia, you will see certain sections of the people, they are controlling, navigating the power, navigating the resources, capital, so many things. And certain people, they are actually fighting to live their everyday life. So the way we see that global south, global north, it is something, not something a kind of territorial aspect. Even within a certain territory, there could be different kind of people. So in Bangladesh, you will see certain sections of the people, the kind of the kind of resources they have. You will be astonished that in other parts of the world, which we usually try to actually frame as a kind of global north, they don't have such amount of resources. So certain sections, so following the neoliberal policies, the group of people who had already have kind of enough resources, they are actually controlling, and they are actually navigating their own resources, and they actually become richer than richer. So, what are actually the specificities of the neoliberalism in Bangladesh, and how it actually created disruption within the Bangladeshi context and in other context? So, see what actually neoliberalism created a kind of disruption in the society. So, when a group of people, they started to actually accumulated resources, they are actually trying to actually strengthen their own business, they are controlling the health sector and this kind of things. What happened, they secured a certain position within their own society. Certain sections of the people, since they have greater control, and at that time they started to realize that our positionality, our power, it might be actually disrupted by people's rebellion, protest, or something like that. So they feel a kind. They started to feel a kind of insecurity within the world.
Mhm.
So when they have, so think about it, you have so much resources, you have so many resources. What you will do? You will always be tensed how to protect all of your resources, how to protect all of your, business. So in doing so, what people will generally do? So the kind of middle class or the new liberal elite class emerged through neoliberal policies in different parts of the world, including Bangladesh.
All
They
right.
started to feel a kind of insecurity that they are not being able to protect their own power, their own resources, and it might be disrupted. And they had a kind of suspicion, also not only the suspicion, a kind of disbelief towards the world, yeah, towards the state, their own state, that our state might not be able to protect us,
All
protect
right.
our resources. And
Mhm.
see, so it's not a common phenomenon of the West. So including in Bangladesh, what happened in the ground level, the people, those who have enough resources and control over the resources, they were started to see that we need to protect our own power, own resources from
Mhm.
whom? From their very own people, whom they started to label as a kind of quote unquote religious fundamentalist, quote unquote rebellions, quote unquote people who are not quote unquote progressive, who are not
Mhm.
something backward, who are something working class people, who are something like that. So they started to create a kind of boundary within the state. So same thing happened in Bangladesh. Certain sections of the people, when and they gathered all this power and resources, they
Mhm.
tried to protect it, and they tried to frame their own people as
Mhm.
something problem for them, for their own resources and protections. And within that context, what happened? Since the state, they already abandoned, they left their own people. That means the state is not looking after your own health. A state is not looking after your education. A state is not looking after your economic crisis or economic activities. So all these big corporations, private corporations, they are looking after it. Is the power of the state? It actually went declined.
Right.
On the other hand, the power of these big corporations, elite societies, it actually uh, uh, alleviated. So what
Right.
happened within that context within the Bangladesh and in other parts of the world? So within that context, certain sections of the people, they appeared as something like that. Since the state is not being able to do all these kind of things, we can do something. So they started to actually approach them in
Mhm.
the public space, that we are, since we are the richer people, we have so many
Mhm.
resources, what we can do, we can actually make so many humanitarian activities, we can do so many charities,
Mhm.
we can actually initiate so many aids, we establish so many um, industries to give the
To give you
employment
support.
to people.
Mhm.
So within the Bangladeshi context, same thing happened.
All right.
If you see during COVID time, what happened within the Bangladesh, certain
Mhm.
sections of the people, they started to say that since the state is not being able to feed these people, we are
Mhm.
the people who we can actually feed. So since the state is not being able to actually manage the health sector or the education for these poor people, we can do something. So certain sections of the people, they started to appear as someone who are as a kind of savior of the country. So see, in the public sphere of Bangladesh, you will see so many people. Oh my God, this is the people who is doing so many things. They are investing. So this is the big institutions in Bangladesh. They are doing so many things for the poor. They are doing so many things for this group of people. They are doing so many things for this thing. So you will see different kind of phenomena. Ek taka rahar, I think you heard about that one. Hey,
Right.
ek
Right.
taka rahar, that means people are not being able to actually uh, getting enough food. They don't have enough resources. We are
Right.
feeding them. We are a kind of savior. You will
Right.
see so many international corporations, big corporations, they started to appear in Bangladesh, and they started to saying that we are providing these resources to this group of people, this group of people. So within this context, the kind of debate and discussions, we are not interrogating why these people they became so poor, why the state is not doing anything for this group of people, what happened. And within that context, what happened, while certain sections of the people they appeared as the saviors or the humanitarian citizen,
Right.
they started to frame certain kind of charities, certain groups of people as problematic for Bangladesh.
Right.
Such as what happened following 1980s. You
Hmm.
know, with the Bangladesh, with the Middle East, so Bangladeshi people they have a kind of entanglement, a
Hmm.
1,000 years of business relationship with the Bangladesh with the Middle East. And at that time, so many Middle Eastern big businessmen they started to provide donation charities. And in Islam, you will see a kind of sadaqah, the idea of the zakat, the idea of the charity. It's one of the core part of the Islam. And so
Right.
many big Muslims, man, those who are living in Middle East, they started to donate their resources to the poor people in Bangladesh. When the state actually failed to feed the poor people in Bangladesh, so many big businessmen they initiated NGOs, humanitarian works in Bangladesh. So
Right.
what happened following 9/11 and through neoliberal policies? So neoliberal policies create a kind of disruption, and within the Bangladeshi context, when this group of people, the people those who have greater access to the resources, they
Hmm.
started to frame this kind of hundreds or 1,000 years of charity activities as a kind of criminal activities. So
Right.
many NGOs, Islamic NGOs also, they started to donate the poor people in different. So think about myself. I am from a very poor background of Bangladesh. I came from the Feni. So if I recall my early days during 2004, 5, 6, you know, I secured so many scholarships. So from different funds. Without those scholarships, it would be really tough for me to actually continue my education, because like me, so many students, it was really tough for them to actually continue their own education and other activities, because people were poor, they couldn't actually afford to actually teach their own students at that time. So and why they were poor, why they were not being able to send their schools, because there was not enough space for them, and they had not enough resources. So many Islamic NGOs, so many things, they started to actually donate in different rural parts of the Bangladesh, and it they did it to actually socially empower the people, the
Hmm.
poor Bangladeshi people. So what happened following 9/11 within the Bangladeshi context? When this group of people in Bangladesh, the elite, super class, middle class, they started to criminalize this kind of activities as a kind of uh, uh, terrorist activities, this kind of kind of, they try to actually kind of a kind of anti-Muslim rhetoric, something in a way. This is
Right.
some kind of fundamentalist organizations. This funding is something very problematic. On the other hand, they also appear as some kind of savior within the state. So
Right.
within the same, so Bangladesh, it is also a hub of refugees. So many people from the Myanmar, Rohingya people, also the Bihar people, they're living here from many years. And so many international organizations, they worked with this group of people. They also actually criminalize all these organizations in such a way
Right.
that they are funding for this thing, they're funding for this thing. More than 40 to 60 NGOs prohibited
Right.
and banned in Bangladesh through this kind of rhetorics. So it's a
Right.
kind of very new phenomena. So who are actually paying for it? That
Right.
means who are actually victim for this, for these rhetorics. So it is, again, it is it is the very poor working class people of the Bangladesh who
Right.
are actually the victim of this kind of rhetorics. The
Right.
group of people who used to get, who used to get the zakat fund, who used to get other kind of resources from the Middle East or from other parts of the world as part of the greater, the idea of the sadaqah, zakat, or this kind of thing. So their whole financial activities, it appeared a kind of suspicious economic activities.
Right.
And on the other hand, certain group of people, those who have already gathered a certain position within the society, that means who try to actually portray them as a kind of trans elite,
Right.
trans-modern, huh, Western, looks like a Western. So those group of people, they started to frame themselves as a kind of humanitarian citizens. We are
Hmm.
giving so many things.
Hmm.
We are kind of doing this kind of things. So neoliberal policies, it created a kind of disruption within the society through which it actually criminalizes certain sections of the people. On the
Hmm.
other hand, it actually uh, facilitated certain group of the people to boom their own business resources as well as their own what it's called the social status. So
Right.
since you are saying that I am a big businessman, I am a kind of savior, I am doing,
Hmm.
see so many people, they're doing, hey, I am barrister, something like that, I'm doing this
Right.
thing, I'm doing this thing. So this group of people, since the state is not protecting its own people and not serving its own people, this kind of exceptional quote unquote, so in the Bangladeshi context you will see certain people, they started to appear said that, oh, a state is not actually looking after the people's
Hmm.
activities, such as people's youth's mind. So I am the people, I will help the people. That means the people, those who will play football, such as the phenomena, new phenomena, the I'm barrister, something like that, I will help people. So certain sections of, so the people of, the poor working class people, they are not being able to do this kind of thing, I will initiate a takarahar, পথ
Hmm.
শিশু school or something like that. So they started to actually portray them as a kind of savior,
Right.
humanitarian activities. On the other hand, they criminalizes those people, those who are actually helping the people for hundreds and thousands, for hundreds and thousands of years.
Right.
Thank
Thank you. I think we got the very important point throughout your discussion. Now, I'd like to know one more thing that I think new. So what I can understand so far, that I think it has a severe discrimination or deep discrimination is seen in this society because of it. So how neoliberalism created a hierarchy among the citizens of Bangladesh, if we want to classify it, and fuel anxiety and pain among the middle class people. Could you please?
thank you so much for the question. So again, the state, it try to portray them as a kind of state
Right.
will protect, the safety, security, and welfare of its own citizen, and the citizen will be treated as a kind of equal through
Right.
the eyes of the state. But in reality, what happened when neoliberal policies appeared in the Bangladesh? So see, uh, when I start actually, it abandoned its project in actually serving the health sector, education sector, and this kind of sectors. Certain group of people, those who have already have enough resources. So think
Right.
about, we are saying that it's a kind of equal field, and a state abandoned its it's what it's called a state. They said that they will not actually interrupt here.
Right.
Yeah, the business will be free. So
Right.
what happened with that time? The people, those who have enough resources, their power will be automatically bumped, and those
Right.
who doesn't have enough power, their business and other kind of things, it will not be actually shined the way it will be shined. So
Right.
the inequalities, disparities, it will actually in it will be increased. So same thing happened in the Bangladeshi context.
Hmm.
Certain group of people, those who have enough resources, control over the resources, they became, the richer than richer. So it also create a kind of, hierarchy within the citizenship, which I tried to say. Certain citizens, their citizenship started to be actually, valorized. So these are the very good people, they're doing something like that. And
Hmm.
certain sections of the people, their citizenship status. So neoliberal policies, it create a kind of, hidden hierarchy within the citizenship.
Right.
Certain sections of the people, they are being able to get resources, enough quality education, quality health, and so many things. On the other hand, certain sections of the people, they are not getting this kind of thing. So it's create a kind of, it create a kind of uh, hidden hierarchical position within the society. Since certain sections, which I have already discussed, that they have enough resources, what they did, they were actually, they were be worried that their power and their resources excuse me, might be
Right.
actually disrupted. And it create a kind of anxiety, panic within themselves. Oh my god, what will happen if somebody
Right.
will attack? So in Bangladeshi context, you will see, in I think, following different kind of terrorist attack, I think
Right.
2016 15 16 Gulshan attack, and so many things, you will see the circulations of the debates and discussions in the Bangladesh. It's a kind of, anxiety. It create a kind of moral anxiety. It creates a kind of panic among different kinds of the people. So if you just look after, if you see the example of the technology, many
Hmm.
people, they used to say that, before 2000 or 9/11, the people, those who are actually from older generation, they used to say that they are not habituated with the technology.
Hmm.
And they also try to say that the people, those who are actually growing, the new generation people, they're actually inclined with the technologies, they're doing so many things within the technology. And we need to look after these kids, this group of people right now. And they started to, what happened, following 9/11, see, earlier generations, it was the activities of the military or the, security agencies or the spy agencies to look after the security. That means certain intelligentsia, certain militaries, they used to actually surveil who is doing what or something like that. But following 9/11 or new liberal policies, what happened, it is not the task of the military forces, it is not the task of the security forces, rather certain sections of the people, those who we are actually saying that they are upper class people having enough resources, they started to surveil their own neighbors. You will see so many advertisement in the Bangladeshi media. Even I was praying in a masjid in Dhaka city, I was astonished the kind of circulations, how you will identify a kind of radical people in your own area, how you can identify. So it is not the task of the police forces right now, it is the task of the upper class, newly,
Right.
upper class, middle class people, to surveil their to actually look after their own people, own neighbors. And in the TV advertisement, you will see one lady, actually she was trying to say that that boy is not looking after me, what happened to that one. So in Bangladeshi, there are some signs of radicalism, how they actually frame that one. If we,
Right.
so he's not attending the birthday party, oh my god, there are some problem with,
Right.
there are some problems. So he's not looking at me, oh my god, there are some problems. So what happened, following that time, certain sections of the people, they started to actually surveil their own neighbors, who is doing what. So the surveillance activities, which supposed to be the task of the security agencies, the new liberal citizens who had a kind of, upper position within the society, right now they are doing these security activities, they are doing the job of the security forces.
Right.
Why these sections of the people, they are so obsessed about their own neighbors, what they're doing. what their neighbors are doing, what they're actually, kids or their, uh, 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 their society members are doing. And they are right now, in majority of the cases you will see, it was not the security forces those who are incarcerating the people. Rather, certain sections of the people, they started to call the security forces, please take them, there are some problems here. So, and there is the idea of the panopticon, which actually initiated by the Michel Foucault. The panopticon, uh, it's something, a kind of, surveillance camera in a in a business house. What you will see. So during, I think, 70s or 80s, they started to actually surveil so many people, their own
Mhm.
people, through a kind of, own technology. So he used the word panopticon is something like that. There is a big tower. So
Mhm.
in the middle of the tower, someone is who is actually watching all the prisoners. So when all prisoners, they started to see that someone is watching me, that means
Mhm.
you will actually, governmentalize yourself. What you will do? So think about when you are working in an industry, and there is a
Mhm.
kind of surveillance camera, CCTV camera, which we are saying.
Mhm.
So when you will realize that the CCTV camera is actually, documenting your own activities, that means you will not do something which goes against the standard or something like that. So the idea of the CCTV camera, the initial idea, it was a kind of panopticon. So when they tried to actually surveil so many prisoners, what they are doing, they create a kind of, if you search the Google, you will see the image of the panopticon. So the panopticon idea, it is something that someone is watching all the people, and all the people are actually realizing that they are being watched by the state or something like that. But following following 9/11, and the circulation, the expansion of neoliberalism in Bangladesh, when we are saying that certain people, they got liberated because of the free market, they have enough resources. What happened within the Bangladeshi people, those who have enough resources, right now it is not the only CCTV camera or one people are serving, or the security agencies, they are serving many people of the people. It is not something like that. Rather, many people started to surveil certain sections of the people.
Right.
So people are surveying. So so everywhere in the education institute, certain sections of the students, they started to surveil other,
Right.
in in the public sphere, in every society. So it's a kind of disruption within the Bangladeshi society. So
Right.
people, those who have already secured a position because of the new liberal policies, because of their control over the resources, they started to actually surveil their own people,
Right.
own fellows, own friends, and in in certain cases they criminalize them.
All right.
And another thing is that, so this kind of, within the society, so this kind of hierarchy, a kind of, a hidden hierarchy, it already constructed, where certain
Mhm.
sections, their lifestyle is being valorized, and certain sections of the people whose lifestyles, everyday activities actually demonized, and it came under the scrutiny. And another thing is that, to secure their own position, they forced the state to initiate so many laws and regulations. If you see, following 1980s, the Bangladeshi security state consistently, they enacted so many laws, so many regulations. You know, I think Money Laundering Act, terrorism, so many acts they actually, implemented. So what happened? Following the implementation of these laws, they criminalize certain activities. And what
Mhm.
all these activities, see, which I have already said, the 1,000 years of, sadaka activities, certain
Mhm.
years of zakat activities, it criminalized,
Mhm.
and other kind of activities it valorized.
Right.
On the other hand, people's faith, your own belief is being criminalized, which was not in every masjid they are now trying to train the ulemas and other group of people.
Mhm.
Oh, they are saying that, oh my god, we are Islam is something of a kind of peace or something like that. where they are allowing certain group of people to do certain kind of things. On the other hand, they started to criminalize. Right now, you will see, if you wanna arrange any religious gathering in Bangladesh, you need to make, what it's called, you need to make permission from the state. So think about, before 20, 50, 30 years back, whether people need to actually take permission from the authorities to actually arrange any gathering or anything else. So right now, all kind of gatherings in the Bangladeshi context, the popular culture is was mahafil.
Hmm.
In the Bangladeshi context, you will see general, people used to arrange halaka, religious practices. So it's a kind
Right.
of hundreds and thousand years of legacy within the Islamic societies. People used to actually gather, talk about the discussions and this kind of things. So while they are actually allowing certain people to gather in certain spaces, big
Hmm.
big concert, big things, on the other hand, they criminalize a certain kind of assemblies, certain kind of gatherings,
Yeah.
and they did all these things through initiating law. Since the state is not being able to protect, they became, they appear as a kind of protectors, and they're forcing the state to do all these kind of things. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think one more thing that I'd like to add here, that when they, I mean, arrange a concert, even they try to provide security, which is not available to organize in some other religious activities. Even we see that there are many, I think, a huge amount of security forces are sorted in the masjid on the day of Fridays, in the day of Jummah. So I don't know how does it create, I think, anxiety among different classes of people in Bangladesh who believe in themselves. So it's a matter of fact that actually it creates a society of doubt, that everyone is like, they don't believe in themselves, that what they believe, maybe it's a problem, what they do, maybe it's a problem. So they always think like, they think themselves as a problem in some cases. So that's how actually it works. So a society of doubt actually. So now the next question that I'd like to ask you, which I got from your discussion, that is, um, by this policy, I think there are lots of organizations who are working for removing illiteracy, financial crisis, and they try to help many poor people in different parts of country. So how does it allow certain economic institutions to work while criminalizing Islamic banking and NGOs? That you have provided some information before, but I'd like to know the process, that how do they do it actually?
Thank you for the question. As I already mentioned,
Right,
uh, through the waning power of the state,
right,
certain sections of the people, they secured a kind of privileged status in the society. Their activities, so since they are not, state is not being able to actually protect its citizen to
right.
serve the health sector and this kind of sector, someone needs to actually do this kind of activities. So who are this group of people? The people, through the neoliberal policies, got a kind of secured pay, secured places within the society. They try to portray them, okay, we are the people, hey,
Right.
we will help the people through
Mm-hmm.
this kind of things, such as through NGO activities,
Mm-hmm.
through what it's called, through microcredit, through this kind
Right.
of thing, through this kind of thing. And they did all these things through you, by forcing the state to initiate different laws, regulations, which I have already mentioned. On the other hand, in doing so, what they did, they urged the state to criminalize the other activities,
Right.
such as, if somebody would like to work with the Rohingya people, or with the Bihari people, refugees, or the poor working class people, or the poor orphans in different parts of the world, they started to suspect what they are doing, from where this money is coming from. So certain kind of economic activities, it was being allowed, and certain kind of economic activities, it is something being criminalized. And what happened? You have already realized in Bangladesh. You know about the example of the Islamic Bank. You know the example of so many NGOs, such as Islamic Bank. It was the bank. which was in the majority of the working class people as well as the expatriates, those who are working in different parts of the world. They were actually sending their money through this kind of channels. So when they criminalizes these banking activities or religious activities, the way they actually grave the financial institutions, which is something aligned with Islamic sociability, which I can
Right.
say. So when they actually criminalized, so they so it was not simply the criminalization, they also encroached the full institutions, and they took the money from those institutions in different parts. You have already realized that. So certain sections of the people, through their own power, through their own economic interest, they didn't just ban or restrict its access, but also they encroach the money from
Right.
those institutions. You will see many institutions fund totally disappeared, who have
Right.
who have actually loot those money. It was
Hmm.
again certain group, certain sections of the people, those who have enough power, enough
Right.
resources in the society. And see, right now, any kind of religious NGOs, religious institutions, they are under high surveillance. It's still, if any NGOs or bankings are exist, they need to go through so many scrutinies, and you will see the security forces and other kind of forces continuously actually visit them, what they're doing, what kind of thing they're doing. On the other hand, other kind of activities, other kind of NGOs, you will see there are no any disruptions. They're doing their own work. So certain kind of activities, it was something allowed, and others was actually you know criminalized. Which one criminalized? Which have a kind of alignment with the religious activities.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it is such a deep thought, such a clear thought about this term that I have never known before, actually, and I'm really amazed by this analysis. So, the last question that I'd like to ask you is I think it actually creates a lot of tension among the people in the society, maybe middle class people, maybe the people who are trying to practice a religion. So, how it fueled anxiety and tension among women in minority groups towards Islamic practices. Could you please
Thank you
describe?
so much for your question, which I have already mentioned that due to the inequalities
Hmm.
and disparities within the society,
Right.
certain sections of the people, they became so panicked,
Right.
anxious about their own security, and among their own about their own security. So it was not simply the upper middle class people. You will see certain group of people, even many feminist groups and many other groups, they started to actually rethink about their own power, and they started to say, oh my god, the kind of privilege we are right now enjoying, it
Hmm.
may would be disrupted again. By whom it will be disrupted? They are trying to actually frame all this group of people as backward, blah 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 blah. But in nutshell, it was not the backward or something blah 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 blah. Rather, it
Right.
is something the poor working class people, which actually in
Right.
fear of. So who
Right.
actually, so they actually fear in fear of those group of people. And then so what you will see within the Bangladeshi context, and even in other parts of the world, you will see the emergence of certain security citizens who
Right.
consistently lobby with the state to
Hmm.
actually initiate more and more, what it's called, more and more restricted laws and regulations. So in
Hmm.
Bangladeshi context, obviously the women's organizations activities, it's really an interesting phenomena. you know Half of the people of the women, and the state was supposed to serve also its own citizens, such as the women. They need to actually look after the women's
Right.
needs. Women are living under the poverty, poor
Mhm.
living condition. They need so many things for their own health. Women and women, they need to navigate so many precarious condition in their life because of their poor health conditions, poor economic and education status. So in different parts of the world, while women organization, they are supposed to help women, who are actually
Mhm.
supposed to actually urge the state to
Mhm.
increase its budget for women's health and this kind of thing. Instead of doing so, many feminist organizations in Bangladesh, they also actually urge the state to actually strengthen its security practices.
Mhm.
So the state, it has started to actually expand its resources budget too much for the
Mhm.
security activities instead of people's well-being. So
Mhm.
if you see the Bangladeshi discourse in following 2013, if you just read the two known newspaper in Bangladesh, you will consistently see their own urge and desire to militarize the society. They're saying that, oh my God, Bangladesh is something. People are being radicalized. People are being something. People are something. People are something. So the kind of panic and anxiety, it was something because they already secured a kind of privileged position, and they
Mhm.
feel a kind of anxiety because of this group of people who actually became poorer because of their own economic activities. So
Mhm.
instead of serving them, or instead of insisting the state
Mhm.
to expense the budget for this group of people, they urge the state to militarize. They said
Right.
that the state should actually suppress this group of people. We urge the state to, I feel disturbed to read so many statements generated by the Bangladeshi intellectuals, feminist groups in 2013-10. Instead of ensuring justice, many of them, you know, they invite the state
Right.
to act militarily, and many of them, they desired for more security activities, more this kind of thing. We need to secure, we need to secure, we need to secure. So what happened following this kind of activities, following this kind of desire, the state, it it actually abandoned its own poor people again and again. The tensions, the anxieties, it just just increased. Another important thing, what you will see many people, what they did, just I can recall following the Brahmanbaria incursion in 2021. I don't know whether
Mhm.
you can recall that incidents. So the state started to actually use the shoot to kill policy, and so many poor madrasa students, they were being killed by the security agencies. So what happened following that incidents, so many elite upper class people, they started to argue that these people, they don't believe in women's rights, so we should
Right.
believe in their own rights. So
Mhm.
see how the kind of rhetoric and narrative that they used to construct. And
Mhm.
all this group of people, after securing certain privileged position within the society, instead of forcing state to serve the people, they militarized the state. They started to actually force the state to more militarize. For what? For securing their own privilege and power, nothing else.
Nothing else.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you for such an excellent discussion about a very burning issue right now in the whole world. And just I'd like to add one more question that I have got from the audience, and that's a question. I don't know, though it's not part of this discussion, but they would like to know that how could we overcome this very situation? If you give us two or three suggestions.
Thank you for the question. So the main concern, so if we would like to overcome this kind of precarity, so
Right.
obviously it create a kind of precarity. So
Right.
if you would like to actually challenge or the resist
Mhm.
the precarity, what
Mhm.
you need to do, you need to fight.
Right.
You need to fight. So it's a kind of imbalance of power,
Right.
inequalities, imbalance of the resources, And it's
Mhm.
also kind of, war against the poor. Simply, it's against the poor working class Bangladeshi people. So
Mhm.
if they would like to actually, overcome these challenges, what they need to actually fight. So it's not fighting something is something, not something you are just protesting or something like that.
Right.
It could be through different ways. You can
Right.
actually generate knowledge, what's
Right.
going on. So
Mhm.
generating knowledge, it would be a one of the best weapon to challenge what is
Right.
actually happening, how people are living through these kind of things. So
Mhm.
if we unpack all these things through debates, discussions, through activities, so people will be aware what actually going on, how they are being actually criminalized.
Right.
So one important thing is that something like that, you need to interrogate and unpack, you need to write, you need to think, and you need to act. So if
Right.
you do this, and the state, how the state policies actually change. So
Mhm.
states policy actually change through public debates and discussions.
Right.
So the best way to actually generate public debates and discussions, how you need to, people can do so many research. How many NGOs are banned,
Right.
how poor people are being affected,
Mhm.
how the social empowerment of the poor working class people disrupted. So if you
Right.
actually interrogate all these things, and if you present in the global way or in different ways,
Mhm.
it will the state will be forced to change. State is not a
Right.
kind of abstract thing. It is
Right.
we who consistently produce and generate the state.
Right.
So it's the one, it could be the one way. There
Right.
are many more ways you can uh, you can mobilize people, you can lobby with the state policies, how a state actually creating its policy towards the poor, and how
Mhm.
it actually making its own legal regime. So
Right.
lobbying another thing, hey, lobbying with the state officials, so many things. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving your precious time to us and for your valuable information throughout the discussion. So, if you have a few words to our audience, you could share your views with them for the last time.
I was wondering, any questions from the audiences?
Uh, I think because of the shortage of time, actually, we have to conclude our program today. So,
No
uh,
worries. No worries. Thank you so
thank
much for arranging this program, and thank you so much. I am honored to actually be with and to talk about these issues, because it is one of the burning issue.
you. Right.
And the people, those who are from poor economic background, and who doesn't have enough social resources, social capital, whose social capital was actually disrupted, they need to actually unpack and interrogate all this process, how the people's social mobility, social capital
Mhm.
disrupted. If we
Right.
could actually unpack and interrogate this thing, obviously we can do something for the next generations, so that they may actually not suffer through these things.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for listening this whole session from the beginning to the end. We're really honored and grateful to you guys that you have joined and you have shared your views throughout the discussion. And the thing that I'd like to share at the very last, that is, it's not actually a burning issue. It's a hidden issue that actually creates hidden discrimination in the society. Maybe we do not know that how we discriminate ourselves. So this is such a thing that actually creates an unbalanced society, an unbalanced family in every part of the organization in the society. So we need to be careful. We need to share these views and thoughts with our closed ones, like family members, friends, and that we know closely. So that's all for today. Thanks once again for joining this session, and especially I'd like to thanks once again Mohammad Raqib brothers for joining this session and provide. I think I cannot explain it more than this, that it's so precious, so knowledgeable, and so analytical information that we need to know at this very time. Thanks once again, Mohammad Raqib brother, for joining the session. Thanks
Thank you,
everyone
Nayeem.
for
Thank
joining
you.
here.
Salam
Assalamu alaikum
alaikum.
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.